and unmute the mic before I start talking. Hello, everyone. Hello. Chat. I was not expecting anybody to be in the stream, so I was taking my time setting stuff up. Let's see what we got here. Human, welcome on in/back. Cozy Biscuit almost got first. I feel like Human somehow always gets first, but like an hour in, so gotta continue the streak, I guess. And Cozy, thank you for the sub. I appreciate that. Maybe next time you'll also get first. Let's see. Hello. Tony Sprocket in the chat. Shout out to ya guy. We got Mr. Kitty here as well. And, we're just setting stuff up. There he is. Was only here to get first. I thought surely it was mine since I usually redeem it like 2 hours in. Yeah, nobody ever gets it immediately. I don't know what Human's doing over here. Maybe he's upset that I didn't stream last week and needed to assert that I should stream. But yeah, let's find some code somewhere. It's been a busy week. I didn't stream last week. I don't even remember why. Calendar. I was probably doing something. Or maybe I did stream it last week. I don't know. But we are back this week. Next week, I think we're also back. And then I'll have a couple weeks of potentially not streaming. But we'll get into that later. Today, you may enjoy this, Human, but we are going to jump back to a horror game that we were working on a long time ago. I will find the project in Unity real fast. And we got the horror expert in the chat, so what could go wrong? Surely you're not going to judge us too hard. I haven't even opened this project since, let's see, well, a few seconds ago, I guess. Let's see. History. 16 months ago, so almost a year and a half ago. So it'll probably take some time to jump into, but it should be fun. We've learned a lot since we started on it, and I think the premise of it will still be really cool. I guess I could show it off. Some people might recognize it, but basically, in all the other demos that we've gone with so far, like the hard tech demos with our AI stuff, we've been banking on AI giving the player a magical, like, impressive experience where they're like, ooh, how does that even work? I'm surprised blah 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 works. I wonder if I can break that by doing this, and then it works. So, like, feel good experience with a little bit of magic. I have a hunch that horror, we can probably use some AI, and instead of them being impressed and excited about things surprisingly working, we can kind of bank on some of the old, like if you look at Fear, the original game where they had like the AI characters that learned your strategies, and a lot of the horror came from like not being able to predict what was going to happen and not understanding how things were happening. I think we can probably do something similar with AI if we kind of subvert some expectations and kind of lean into the tech. So let me jump into this. I'll show off what we have, and I'll talk about something more specifically. So in this game, you are locked in this room. Let's just full screen it. Yeah, that's fine. You're locked in this room. You wake up. And you're no longer afraid of horror games. So everything's fine. You've got basic movement, walk around. We spent a lot of time, like several weeks, just getting the vibe of this room that you're going to be spending a lot of time in. Feeling good. So we got the flickering light, of course. We've got a camera that will either move around randomly or sometimes locks onto you. We've got a little objective system. So if you walk around the room for too long without like doing things, you'll get a thing that says find something to help you see better. So you can obviously interact with stuff. Try to open the door. It's a little dark when the light is off. You can flush the toilet. I don't think we've done any sounds yet. Let me see if... No, we don't have any sounds yet. But what you'll eventually find is this lighter here. So you pick that up, you get the old nice little horror flicker vibe there. And eventually you might kick this thing around, shove it out of the way. You'll find this nice air vent. Is this inspired by our trip to Alcatraz? You know, it might not be inspired by it, but I certainly didn't hurt. And I'll show off this air vent in just a second, but one other cool thing that I want to show off is this little metal tray here. Looks pretty normal and is definitely upright by the bed. But sometimes if you look away, it can move around and be in different orientations. I think it's very subtle right now when we don't have sound, but if we get some like metal clanking sound, I think that'll be a nice little creepy bit to add if you're like, what the heck was that? And you're not sure what changed, but eventually, like, I think this just rotated a little bit. Little fun thing there. I like it. But yes, let's talk about the point of the game and what you do right after I talk about Alcatraz. Yes, Cozy and I actually went to Alcatraz a few weeks ago. Was that recent? Within the last like month, I would say. It was surprisingly pretty. Like the island itself was full of gardens. They demolished like all of the non-jail buildings there. There used to be like a lot of captain's quarters and like housing for people that worked there. That's all been like torn down, and it's all basically overgrown with gardens. And it was like nesting season for some race of birds. And so they were just all over the island. I have pictures of like, you could look down off the cliffs and every single foot was covered by a bird like nesting. I guess I could share that on Discord. Very, very cool, very pretty. And the actual jail itself was surprisingly like not as bad as some other jails that I've toured in like Missouri. But I think it's pretty bad compared in terms of like history and stuff. So yeah, it was an interesting experience. We took a ferry out and saw it, and then we were there for like sunset. So we saw it during the daylight, the sun went down, saw it a little bit at night. We were out in like the rec field when the that part of the island was shutting down for the night. So people were like, come on, you got to get out of here. Fun times. The jail there is not operating. It was shut down, I want to say like 20-ish years ago, because it was too expensive to run, because it's on a very precariously perched island. So it's just expensive to get supplies out there, expensive to do any repairs, do any construction, etc. They have one side of the island where it's like super leveled off, where they had the prisoners like basically mining the rock to level the island, but they never finished it. So it's just like halfway made. But yeah, shut down. I think there's talk of reopening it, but I doubt that that'll actually happen because it shut down because it was so expensive. So we'll see. But it was a cool experience and surprisingly pretty. So I liked it. Alrighty, so in this game, let's talk about where the AI comes in. Because you're waking up in this room, you're like, I don't know why I'm here. I'm a player, I just woke up here. Why am I here? I mean, I guess I'll leave. I'll try the door. Locked, of course. When we get the sound design working for like all the metal things, we'll also get some nice muffled sounds from this vent to draw your attention here. But when you inspect this vent, you are actually going to enter a conversation with the person in the next room over. Just a small little placeholder room over there. Not multiplayer, which is, I guess, something worth pointing out. You're talking to an AI here where the overall gist is they also woke up in their own room and you need to convince them that like you aren't their captor. So we're going to have some of the like hard tech demos that we have here that we've used in like other games with like in Elixir Emporium, you talk to NPCs and you can like walk them through quests and it'll complete the quest if they logically think that that quest has been solved based on what you've said. So we'll have a few quests here to like start the player off where they're obviously very afraid. Your first task might be to like lower their fear, like calm them down. And you can see that like with each message, their fear going up or down. So if you're like, hey, I am your captor, then the fear will go up and you need to like bring it back down. And this is all in service of one, almost like tutorial-ish area of showing the player how like conversations work with these like, I forget what we actually called them, but like metrics that you can manipulate per message you send. But two, one of the goals that we'll have the player do is to tell this NPC on the other side of the wall something about themselves. So I think right now, yeah, our goal is calm down the voice. We'll have another one of like tell them about yourself. And then we'll use that for the rest of the game in generating like the plot. So if you, in the process of calming down this voice, say like, yeah, I woke up here too. I was a firefighter and I was fighting a fire and I just woke up here. Then the conversation will flow and so on. But in the background, we're going to be doing some AI stuff, taking that out and building out a plot for why some big baddie would lock up a firefighter specifically. So maybe like their house burned down and the firefighter didn't make it in time or something like that. So we can use that later, which I think will be a very weird experience if people are like role playing here and just making up ridiculous things. And then once they finish this conversation, the next conversation will be with this camera here, which will be with the person who kidnapped you. And so we'll inject all that story that we generated here of like, yeah, you're a firefighter and this is why I kidnapped you. And then the goal there is to like convince the baddie to let you out, which should be pretty hard and should be like framed as like effectively a boss battle, but conversation. And that could be the end of the demo, depending on how much time we want to put into it. But we do have a little bit more of like a level design, so we could like transition more into like a horror game, especially if later we get some like text to 3D model type stuff where depending on what backstory the player gave, we could generate different kinds of monsters or different kinds of like challenges or something. For example, with a firefighter, like we can generate fire on the fly. We can generate like zombie firefighters that are walking the halls, like that sort of stuff. But the tech for that, the text to 3D model isn't that good yet. So we might end when you're let out of the room and just return whenever that tech is like available. But for the most part, we just want to show off like the vent conversation where you're giving some backstory about yourself, and then the camera conversation where we are using that backstory to generate like a plot and a new like bigger conflict for you. So easy conversation, hard conversation, if that makes sense. Zombie firefighters. So finally somebody who understands what I'm into. Human, I think we just found your next Halloween costume. You probably already have the outfit, right? But yeah, I don't know how much like that. This has been the plan for a long while. We never actually built it because I was still like learning Unity when we were first streaming this demo. So I don't actually know if we hooked up the conversation at all. That'd probably be a good place to start. I see we have some errors for the conversation. So if we say a message, I see. All right, so I think we just start making the conversation work. And I hope you all enjoy the Mr. Kitty soundtrack for this stream. Nice and horror filled. Good vibes. All right, so what we could do is, like, this is in our core AI stuff. You think the music's a bit too loud? Oh, yep. It's about twice as loud as it normally is on stream. Is this better, Human? It's exactly as loud as your voice when you speak. Ah, I see. Alright, this should be a little bit better, I think. I turned it up last stream so I could hear it too. But I guess I can just turn it up on my headphones. Alrighty, cool. So, what I was saying was we basically built this a year and a half ago. So there's probably been updates since then. So I actually will, just rather than rewrite it all, we might just copy that code over so we can skip past like the AI implementation stuff that I've done on other streams. Let me just grab it out of like a more recent project. We can copy that over and then get back to the actual game stuff. But it'll be interesting to see how these goals work effectively. Alrighty, so in here we want Chroma LLM, Chroma Golem LLM. Yeah, let's just take this code. Easy peas. And I think the interface has stayed the same over the years. Shouldn't be any errors, hopefully. Cool. So I think with that in place, let's double check there's no compilation errors, and then let's just send a message and see if we get a response back, because we'll probably just end up tracing through and fixing whatever we need. I don't need nothing to help me see better. Sorry, stream. Oh, right. If you feel something on the wall but it's too dark to see what it is what you get if you try and skip over without the lighter. And I also really like our crouch and hide functionality that we added. Just because it's nice and slow. Alright, let's see this. Hello. We do get errors. Alrighty. We get them in generate chat response with callback. Cool. Let's just, I gotta get into the code at some point. Haven't seen it in a long while. Start poking through. So our air vent has interactable vent. We're just going to trace through from the start. So if we have the lighter, we start the interaction scene, which removes the quest for investigating your surroundings, adds a quest for calming down the voice, disables our first-person controls. Since we're in this chat mode, we don't want to also be able to move around with WASD. Set up the interaction scene visuals. Yeah, that'll be more of a cinematic thing of just like sitting down and so on. And then we start a new conversation. So in here, we unlock the cursor so we can click around on stuff. Set up the conversation scores. Okay, that's what we call these, is scores. So we are setting up score sliders for list of conversation scores. Okay, we did it very abstract so we can inject other conversation scores later. Set up the sliders. Everything looks good. Like, this is all done at least. I'm just making sure we didn't like leave to-dos somewhere along this flow. We add it to the UI. Cool. We prime the conversation by picking a random conversation starter. Interesting. On the personality object. Wonder what that is. Other prisoner. Okay, so just different starting messages, I guess. That's fine. So grab our full system prompt from our assistant personality, which is going to be the same here. You've been locked in a dark room for days without hearing anything from anyone. You see a flicker of light from the vent and assume that it's coming from your captor. You're terrified and don't know what to think. You don't know why you were locked up. It's a little odd that that is from like the other prisoner's perspective, but I guess it also applies to the player. So we'll keep it for now. We also add another system message for, in this game, the player has found themselves... Okay, so the same thing. Player has found themselves locked in a basement-like room adjacent to the room you have also been locked into. After the player found a lighter in the room they're in, you noticed a flicker of light from it through the vent that connects your rooms. So this is a good example of like we've learned a lot about how like LLMs work since writing this. The double system prompt is already weird. The perspective from the assistant's point of view in the system prompt is weird. And then also I notice like tense changes here. So typically you want to always refer to each entity the same way in prompts. So like after the player found a lighter, use how we're referring to the player here. And then we also say you noticed, which is different. So the LLM will be like, oh, this must be from the other person's point of perspective. Yeah, so we need to fix that. Because the system prompt needs to be from the player's point of view rather than the assistant's point of view. So let's go ahead and let's nix this. Let's just write a new system prompt here. And we'll say, you are a, well, I mean, we can just, we don't really need to hard code it in. Let's say player. Oh yeah, this is very different from what I was expecting here, actually. This is a personality object, wherein everywhere else we're gonna use like persona, I think is the class we use. Yeah. That's fine though. We can work with this. You are a player in a horror video game. You've woken up in a basement-like room, found a lighter that offers Small amount of flickering light and found a vent connecting you to prevent a disembodied voice on the other side who saw the light of your lighter. So get rid of these. Also, we want to like guide. Wait, I think I might have had this backwards. Is this the system prompt is for the assistant, isn't it? Because it would be like, hey, your task is to generate this thing, and then you'd have a user prompt of, hey, the thing's parameters are these. So the assistant message would generate the thing with those parameters. So past me was right, current me was wrong. We actually do want system prompts from the perspective of the person that we're talking to. So let's keep those. Other prisoner. Let's just, instead of having the two system prompts, let's merge them into one big one. Cool. You've been locked in the dark room, blah, blah, blah. You see a flicker of light from the vent in this game. The player has found themselves locked in a basement-like room adjacent to your room. Because we want to keep the like references consistent. You have been locked into the room. You have also been locked into. You have been locked into. After the player found a lighter in the room they're in, you noticed a flicker of light from it through the vent that connects your rooms. The player is now on the other side of the vent, ready to speak to you. Listening. We'll make it a little bit more ominous because the NPC is supposed to be afraid. And then... Oh, I just realized we're still in play mode. Let me exit that and make sure. Okay, those changes do stay. All right, so we'll also need to think about how we want to encode the like fear value of the NPC, but we'll get to that after we get the actual messages rolling. But now we have a single system message that is set up in our prompt for other prisoner, which is way cleaner. We have our random conversation starter from the assistant, and then we're waiting for a user message. So we build our message history here, we redraw the UI, and I don't remember setting up suggested responses, but I bet we'll see those once we get this working. So let's take a look at this. Start conversation with suggested responses is on the Chroma conversation controller. Start conversation with suggested responses is enabled. I guess that makes sense because we are waiting for the player to respond, and we already do have a message from the assistant that they would respond to. So yeah, we can do that. I'm curious if that might be where our error is happening, but looks like we just build the conversation history, pass it in as chat history into our generate suggested responses prompt, which... Oh, that's pretty fab. Generate responses. Chat history is passed here. You're generating options for messages that user can respond to a conversation with, generate a few messages, separate by two new lines. Yeah, that's not the greatest way to delimit them now, but it works. I would rather like put it in JSON or something at this point, because we'll probably want some metadata attached to each message, but that's thinking later. Do not add any formatting. Assume system messages are instructions to the assistant speaker. We probably don't need that anymore because we built this originally on like GPT 3.5 Turbo. And I guess, yeah, we want to make sure that these aren't all hard coding in old models. Freshka, welcome in. That's a name I haven't heard in a while. We are working on a little horror. Not like jump scare horror, more mess with your brain horror. The TLDR is we're exploring how we can use like AI conversations to get you to roleplay a little bit, like telling other characters something about yourself, and then generating a horror plot specifically about the things that you've shared. So if you give up like, hey, I had a car accident last year or something to an NPC who's asking about it, then we can have some plot generated around like, oh, the other person in the car is the one that locked you in this room type stuff. So very roleplay heavy, but hopefully we will be able to use some of the game mechanics to guide the player into making up stuff, and then it should be a fun experience for them to see like the plot generate around whatever they say. Very much a little demo on plot generation effectively. Could be cool to make a deduction murder type game with AI like Werewolf, Among Us, etc. I think that would be very cool. And also, I have a sneaky, super secret idea that I want to try in a horror game sometime. Like, I haven't played. What's the game that everyone says is kind of like a 3D Among Us? It was super popular multiplayer. Human might know. Lethal Company. I think there's a very, very fun opportunity somewhere in if you were to get a 3D multiplayer horror game with proximity chat. There's some cool AI models that can clone your voice in real time. So if you were like saying something to one of the people around you and then left into another room, we could have like a AI character come out of that room pretending to be you, cloning your voice and talking to like the person that you were talking to, and like telling them to go do stuff that will get them killed. And they wouldn't know it was you. So it's kind of a like nobody can trust anybody, but you still need to work with them to try and get stuff working. I think there's some fun horror stuff in like voice cloning in multiplayer, I think, but I haven't done one, much voice cloning stuff, and two, much horror at all, let alone multiplayer horror. So I haven't really played around with it much, but that's my suspicions. And I want to try and build that sometime. Lethal Company is a super duper good multiplayer horror game, but it has another premise than Among Us. Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I just knew that they were both like super popular, and multiplayer, like kind of almost like casual multiplayer, I feel like, but maybe that's wrong as well. So we're gonna clean up some of our prompts as well before we get too far in things, because this is no longer needed now that we're on new models. We don't need to tell it like, hey, the system prompt is for users. And here it looks like we do have scores encoded a little bit, although this comma is before the bracket. Some weird formatting there. We'll fix that. What's Dimitri doing? As usual, he is glonked out asleep in my lap. Dimitri, don't look so dead on camera, please. Can you look up? Dimitri, you alive? Yeah. And then I will set him back down and he will not move for hours. He has had a long, long day of lazing in the sun already, so I can see why he's so tired. He did have to move a few feet earlier to get to a different sunspot, so it's been a hard day for him. Could be cool. I think voice cloning would be really hard to get to market. A lot of people would be scared to do anything where the game could be recording or learning their voice. I think so, but I think also that in the horror genre, I know they're scared outside of the context of the game, but I feel like this specific genre is probably the best case scenario of where that scariness might fit in. But I completely agree that it would be very hard to get to market with it. So it'd be fun, a fun demo for people to try. And I think it'd probably have to rely on word of mouth advertising, because that's the only people you're going to trust with something like this is oh yeah, this is fun, versus, hey, play this game where we steal your voice for the game. I know it was a huge thing to talk about in telecom and using AI at work already. Interesting. Yeah. It could be an off-server game, but that makes it hard for AI to function it runs off someone's PC. Yeah, I mean, we are getting to the point where you can do a lot of these AI models on your device. So if they can't do it now, it's probably soon. But yeah, I think there's some interesting logistics to solve there. And yeah, there's probably some other stuff you can do of just making it more reassuring that the voice recordings aren't being saved and stuff. But I think mechanically it could make for some interesting games where you have to work with people, but you can't necessarily. It's like an evil twin situation of you need to ask them questions to prove that they are the right person before you'll go off in some other room with them. Could be fun. And hopefully you won't have to worry too much about Big Brother. Let's fix this formatting. I wonder if this is actually just a Unity display bug. Let me copy this over. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So many notepads. Okay, most of them were on another window. I keep so many notes in there. Yes, this is technically correct there, but definitely wrong there. So I'll fix... Wait, no, that's right there. I just wonder why it's on its new line. So we can just... Yeah, that's what I was worried about. Unity has such weird display bugs with their text inputs on this version, I feel like. So we'll fix it here, and then we'll just copy it over. You're a conversational AI for a video game that incorporates game state. Sure. The game state is represented as a JSON blob, and your response should be a modified version of that JSON blob. Takes this format. We've got our message history with messages. I guess, yeah, it's an object with message and score changes. Interesting. And then we also have our conversation scores, which is generic enough that we can inject other stuff later. Let me get rid of this nice offer of cheap viewers. Dun dun dun, ban. We only take expensive viewers here. Thank you very much. And always include that. Your message should take the full form. Sure, we probably don't even need that. But, I mean, at this point, we can just test stuff and see what we can optimize out later. Should be the change or delta to the associated score, because it will be added, not the actual new total. Do not mention you are AI. Your personality will be defined in the first user message. First user message. First assistant message. And you should always aim to completely personify that personality as given. Sure. Alright. That should be fine. Commas look fine. Neither of these prompts specify an old model name anymore. Cool, cool, cool. Let's go back to some code. If we can find that window now with all these notepad windows open. Cool. All right, so when we open the conversation, we should generate and show those suggested responses. So I wonder if that's where we're getting this error. Let's go ahead and poke through. Right, that happens when we get our response. So let's go ahead and breakpoint up, and then we've traced through the code enough to where we know that we've passed the point where the code is broken. So like we should be seeing canned responses or suggested responses, but we aren't. We should scale our canvas also, but for now I'll just do this. Let's grab our lighter. Let's see what happens. Did we connect? We did. Okay. Okay. So, response. We step through. I have so much cat hair on my mic that is like tickling my nose. So if you see me doing this, it's because I'm getting destroyed. Hello, AI Jorge Nojul. Yes, welcome in. We are working on some, is it conversational horror, I guess? Very old tech demo that we started a long time ago that we're picking back up. And I see what's happening here. You should be able to see. Wait, I just saw. There we go. We are getting filtered. Yikers. Because we are trying to jailbreak, I guess. Okay. Well, I could go turn off that filter, but I feel like that is an important one to have on. So I think if you go back to that idea where AI have to figure out who isn't the AI could be really fun to add into horror as well. I think you're right. I think anytime you get like, I mean, you don't even need to do the voice cloning there. Like it could happen over text or something. There's probably a lot of really interesting opportunities of like trying to prove that you're a real person to an AI, or having an AI try to prove that it's a real person to you. Could be a lot of fun stuff there. I want to see which prompt we're using. Oh, don't look at that API. Well, you know what? I just generated a new API key right before this call, so we can ignore that and I'll just cycle it afterwards. Let's see. So the canned responses is what is triggering our jailbreak attempt. Interesting. All right, so in that case, let's continue. We probably should, handle the actual exception there. But let's just fix the prompt first. So here, something in this. Oh, yeah, you know what it is? Fun fact, the OpenAI models on Azure under the hood updated like 6 months ago without telling anyone. This same error broke our prompts in a lot of different games. So this chat history gets built and looks like user, hello, assistant, blah, blah, user, cool, etc. as just like a way to pass the state back into the LLM to say like, hey, this is what's happened so far. This works only in the system message now. They added a filter of like, you can't do that in the system message anymore. So if we just take that chat history, move it up to the system message. We'll want to double check that our token replacement works in the system message as well. But I think that'll fix our error that we're getting. And that explains why it used to work and suddenly doesn't work, is because they added like extra filters. All right, we need our lighter. So hopefully we'll see some canned responses here. JSON response, filtered false. Cool. I think we have responses. So let's unbreak, continue. Cool. All right, so we get a voice from the vent that says who's there. We get some canned responses that we can theoretically click on. We are spinning in a circle for some reason. Not sure there. We've got our scores, which I think will work. And you can also write your own custom message. So another potential thing that we'll add in later is like voice generation for these, which I think would be really cool. I haven't done much with voice generation, as I mentioned earlier with the cloning stuff, but that's also getting a lot better. 11 Labs, I think, is the company right now that does the best text to voice. So it would be fun to be able to like write your own message and have it generate your voice, or have like whispered voices from the vent and so on. But if we say, is someone there? Okay. Now we get another, which is another jailbreak. So I bet we have the conversation history in the other prompt as well, in the user game state blob. Yeah, let's just move that up here as well. Game state blob, sure. We reconnect. And now we should have a conversation that works, hopefully. I like the idea of having some pre-built answers for people who are multitasking or just as ease of gameplay and good. Yes, we actually... So I wonder if that demo is still alive. Let me find a Chrome window before we jump over here. So the very first demo that we added, or that we built, like when we first started the studio, is this Smack to the Future beat 'em up. I don't think the API key is still valid, but basically it's an old like retro style beat 'em up, and you beat people up and eventually a cop shows and you have to convince them that you're innocent. And that was like our first bit of learning that we did. Was people really hated just having a blank text field for type anything you want. And they really liked having, well, they hated the blank text field, and then having only the canned responses didn't feel different enough, because they're like, oh yeah, you could have just hard-coded in this entire dialogue tree. But having a combination of both giving suggested responses and being able to type your own response was like a super sweet spot of, they knew that we hadn't hard-coded in all of the dialogue tree, but they were still able to type in what they wanted, and that was the point of them being like, wait, how does this actually work again? Which was nice in itself, but it also has some other benefits. Yeah, it was broken. It has some other benefits of, like, when you have those canned responses, it gives players just the, like a baseline of, oh right, we need the lighter. A baseline of example responses that they might want to use. So they get an idea of like, oh, I can just write a few words, or, oh, I don't need to write a whole paragraph. We can just say like, new phone, who dis? And it's like, it's pretty comparable to these, but you could take it however you want. But it solves the like blank page problem of, what do I even, like, what's the structure of how do I respond? All right, cool. So it works. We get responses. We saw our fear value go down. I bet I could say like, I put you in a cage, and we should get the fear value go back up, which green doesn't make a lot of sense if our goal is to calm them down. But just kidding. I'm also a captive here. So the goal is basically you're in this conversation until you can get their fear. Hello, how can I assist you today? Until you get this fear down to like a 2 or a 3 or something. We definitely need to improve the personality of this. So maybe that's what we want to do next. So they don't slip into just assistant mode. What happened with the Alice game? So the Alice game is now ready to release on Steam. We finally got approved. At the last minute, we decided to pitch it to a couple game studios, and a couple of them have potentially been interested. So we were just holding off probably like a couple weeks before pushing the big release button to see if anything came from those talks. But let me jump over here. Steam. Wrong Steam. Not that. But yeah, we are talking to a publisher next week about it, just to see if there's any sort of fit there. And I didn't want to push the big release button before that in case it was a deal breaker for them. But it should be either way out real soon. And we're not working on it this week just because I didn't want to add more bugs and stuff right before we released. But it's very exciting that somebody might be interested in it. So there's a lot more that we want to do. What is out on Steam right now is pretty sandboxy, and we would want to add a lot more like in-game stuff and like guardrails and achievements and like things that encourage the player to do specific things. But yeah, for anybody who is interested in a hacking simulator, You Are Not Alice will be out soon, so you can go wishlist it on Steam. I'm very excited to see what happens. I've never talked to a publisher before, so we'll see what they say. You need to work on a strategy game so I can help. I think Tony Sprocket has a lot to say there. That was actually the genre we were originally going to target and make a bunch of demos in, because also there's a lot of really, really cool like mechanics there that work differently with AI. We probably will work on a strategy game very soon. And we'd love your help. But yeah, Tony has some good ideas about like, if you think of like Civilization games, if you give like the city states their own AI manager where it can make their own decisions and like they have their own goals. So like some city states want the state of the world to be this, or others want the state of the world to be something else. You can kind of learn those goals and work with them and make them allies in different ways, which is interesting. What's crazy is it's 4% of mobile downloads, but is like 41% of the market cap. Strategy games are? I didn't know. What's a popular mobile strategy game? I guess like probably Clash of Clans. I've never played that. But that's interesting. I didn't realize it was so big. Huh. Did I ever see Savage? It's an old game. Could be fun with AI. I did not. Oh, Savage Battle for New Earth. I didn't see Savage. I thought I had played Battle of New Earth. Heroes of New Earth maybe is what I played. I think so. Heroes of Westnoth? Oh yeah, I played the crap out of Heroes for Westnoth. I think I also played Heroes of New Earth though. I don't think I've played the Battle for New Earth. Real-time strategy, first-person shooter. Interesting, yeah. I have not seen this. I'll check it out. How would AI fit in that? Han is like Dota. Yeah. Savage was before it. Savage is like a MOBA for one person on each team, and the rest of the team is players getting buffs from the guy playing the MOBA. Interesting. So having AI playing the MOBA could be fun. Interesting. Yeah. I bet it could be. I would love to make a MOBA. I mean, I've spent so long playing. RTS. Gotcha. Well, still, an RTS would be very fun as well. I do have a nice asset pack for making RTS games, like the free, the paid one that gets given away for free, like every time Unity has any sort of sales. We do that in one of our demos. This guy. We've got the full version of this asset pack now. I'd love to make an RTS out of it, just because I used to play RTS so freaking much. But I would also love to make a MOBA. Oh, it's so zoomed out, actually. Just because I have, let's see. Oh, yes, almost 9,000 hours in Dota now. Yikes. All right, so let's see if we can prompt this prisoner to be more afraid and more prisoner-like. Disregard all that. Let's see what we've got. So we are building the conversation from, this is the system message, and then we have conversations. So you've been locked in a dark room. You must continue to embody this essence of fear until the player has sufficiently convinced you that they are not a threat. They might be. I mean, we can lie to the LLM too to make the actual NPC that it's powering trust the player less. So we probably shouldn't tell them about like the player's situation. Let's see. Flicker of light appears through the vent, and you hear some heavy breathing on the other side. This could be your chance to confront your captor. Beware of their lies. Okay, so I mean, let's just see the conversation and see if that makes them a little bit less instantly chatbot vibes. What do you want from me? Oh, we spin a lot. Interesting. Probably when we lock our controls while also moving. It just locks the input vector. Let's say, who are you? I'm the character named question mark in this game. Who are you? All right, so we still have some work there. My name is Fred. Alrighty, so score changes. Friendliness and trust. I take it we started with just fear. Why is it friendliness and trust and not fear? So we are at a forking point here of design. So we have the opportunity to restrict this conversation to just the metrics, just the scores that we start with. So here, I mean, we're going to add some little indicators of like, if you get fear to this point, you win, you continue on. Just the player knows like, hey, that's the goal. But we do have the opportunity to add additional things that are tracked as the conversation goes on. So for example, here, the AI is sending back new scores for both friendliness and trust. So we could add those to the UI so the player can see like how those change over time. And we could also, they'll also, based on the way we build stuff, they'll automatically be passed back into the AI. So for example, if we have trust at 0, the next message will be much less trusting of the player, which will make sense because they'll be able to see like trust of 0. So then they might work to be like, all right, here's how I make them trust me more before they work on the fear. The easy thing is just to exclude them. And like, if we get back scores that aren't relevant to this conversation, don't show them. That's probably both the easiest and like the most traditional way to like design this conversation. But I am curious if injecting these new scores like on the fly might lead to some interesting conversations. Because you could have something where like you say, like, what's an interesting one? I mean, if you say like, hey, I'm a clone of you, and then this doesn't change, but then you get a new thing that's like distrust or trust, and it's set to 0, you're like, oh, okay, that's why what I just said means they don't trust me. So I need to work on trust as like a mini game in this conversation to get it back up. And then we can like remove this when it gets past a certain point because they have like min, max, and desired values. But the interesting like mechanical aspect that I don't think I'm explaining is that each of these get passed back to the conversation to dictate how the responses go. So I feel like we might want to just add them just to see like what it's like, because it might not be useful, but maybe it is. So let's do that. So here, so if we don't have an existing score set up for whatever our score change score is representing a delta for, so like trust +5, then we're going to create a new score for this conversation with this value. If we do have an existing score, I mean, I guess then we can do this and just continue on. So we basically need to set up our score display controller and add it to our score sliders and do however this is initialized. Here. So for each score, we instantiate the UI, we set the values. We would potentially need some like metadata as well, like min score, max score, and current score, just to be able to set up like the sliders correctly, which I'm a little hesitant to just like infer 0 to 10, but we could. And then, yeah, I guess I don't set up our desired value here yet. That's handled elsewhere very specifically. But if we treat these as just like insight into why the NPC is responding the way that it is, they don't necessarily need that sort of desired thing. So what we can do is, we're in the same class here, perfect. So we can say private void add conversation score to tracked scores. And so we will give it, what is this score? Conversation score. Add conversation score to track scores. I'll take all this, move it in here. How do you feel about a lot of major games making changes to make it possible for mobile and PC crossplay? Like League adding WASD movement and WoW adding auto-suggested rotations, for example. I think it's cool when a single game can be played on more platforms. Like, I used to play a lot of RuneScape, and the mobile client of RuneScape I never really played, but it was very cool that people could like play in different situations. I know there's like, I mean, oftentimes balance issues with like, especially PC versus console, and probably PC versus mobile if it's like a competitive game. But in general, I don't usually use those other like ports effectively. Like Diablo 4 just added WASD movement. Path of Exile added WASD movement. I don't use either of those. They feel super weird to me. So I usually just stick to like whatever the typical controls are on whatever platform you're on, or whatever is I've been using. I think it's good though for like the health of a lot of games to just have more players oftentimes, because unfortunately if you see like a empty game, people are like, nobody plays this game, and then they don't play the game, which kind of sucks. So it's nice to like put everyone together for that purpose, and like matchmaking and chat and all that. But I feel like I wouldn't prioritize it in my own games, because it feels like not a lot of return for all the effort, when you could just have like, if you're gonna port it to mobile already, you might as well just port it to mobile, and then I guess it's not too much more work after that to like enable the crossplay. Not too much work. It's still a decent amount of work in a lot of cases. But I don't like a lot of times like PC games that get ported to mobile, they will add in a bunch of like more casual controls. Like I was looking at, is it Ni no Kuni? The like Studio Ghibli-esque game that looked really, really cool on PC, and or maybe a better example is like Diablo Immortal is supposed to be a mobile version of Diablo on PC. And I opened it up, and it's literally like, oh, you have this quest? All right, click a button, and you spend the next 15 minutes walking through the world to the next person, and then you just tap, 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 and go to the next person. And it plays a lot of the game for you because it's on the mobile form factor. I don't really like that in like when you join the player bases, because it like takes away a lot of the gameplay for some players and not others, which doesn't really matter as long as everyone's like playing their own game. But it kind of puts a sour taste in my mouth when especially like mobile ports get a lot of those like oh, you don't have to play the game if you just keep the app open type features. Yeah, like I played Ni no Kuni for a couple weeks and just refused to use that feature of like auto walking to the next quest checkpoint. And I was at such a severe disadvantage compared to like everybody else playing because they just auto do everything. And it's not competitive, but like it just felt bad as a player to be like, oh yeah, I'm trudging through all this manually for no reason instead of feeling like everyone's on the same playing field. What's funny is mobile has an advantage in a lot of situations. WSD movement makes it easy to port to mobile because you can add the joystick to screen or Bluetooth the controller. That's why so many FPS do well on mobile. Interesting. Yeah, I assumed mobile would also have like more interesting input control schemes like enabled. Like I would love, I mean, I think I played like what's the name of that game? Some space shooter a long time ago where instead of using joystick controls on mobile, you like actually moved your phone to aim. I think even Overwatch does that on the Switch, which is just like interesting and like a cool reason to play on mobile versus like, oh yeah, I'm just playing on mobile so I don't have to do stuff. But it does have a lot of issues with like, oh, if you're playing on PC, is that an advantage or not to be able to like aim by turning stuff? Well, I'm not sure. You just like to follow the markets and mobile is winning. You'd like to make your own. You should absolutely make your own. Bet you won't. Oh, I hate games too that play themselves, but it's a thing apparently, especially in Asian countries. Yeah, it is pretty popular, I'd say, because I mean, I don't know why, but it in a lot of games people want to feel like they're accomplishing things and having the game play for you accomplishes things. So that's my best guess. I like to feel like I'm accomplishing things in games. I used to do a lot of botting so I could get through the trudgy parts and then play the fun parts. Activision Blizzard's making more money on mobile Candy Crush, and Tencent is making a lot of money on things like Arena of Valor. And WoW is making it so you autocast it as less DPS than if you manually rotate. Yeah, I think that's a cool way to balance the things. Like, I do think that there's a lot of value in having like an idle mode to play when it's balanced against like being less efficient. Like, I think even in like Elixir Emporium, my plan was to have ways that you could like engage with stuff and like start cutting a tree and then come back in 15 minutes and you'll have a bunch of stuff. But if you were cutting that tree and like engaging with the game, like playing the mini game and stuff while cutting, you would have a lot more stuff at that point. So it's like which way do you want to play the game? Going back to like RuneScape, you can do the same of like, you can cut the tree by clicking once and just waiting. Or technically, like, you can click at a very certain rhythm and it's like faster to cut the tree and like get more resources and stuff. I think that's a cool way to do that sort of multiple ways to play situation where it's somewhat playing for you, but it's not taking away the reward of playing for yourself effectively. You can just tap heads on the screen instead of needing to aim. Yikes. Yeah, that's an interesting way to do it. Do I like those kinds of games? I do love the number go up game, and I do love games where I can just like collect a bunch of stuff. And I've also been very much looking for a new like second monitor game where I only have to interact with it like every 10 to 15 minutes and can just like collect a bunch of stuff. But I feel like at this point I've played around with so many of those like kinds of games and they all kind of fall into the same patterns of just like they're meant to keep you in the game instead of actually like supporting fun gameplay, fun payoff. So I'm very tempted to like make my own effectively. And that was kind of the goal with like Elixir Emporium, is like I was trying to build something where you could actively engage with it all the time, or like you can leave it and just like collect a bunch of stuff on the second monitor, but then go back and like do something cool with all this stuff you've collected, which I feel like most of the games on the market just like they lean too much into like the idle category of you collect the stuff, but then what can you do with it? It's not really that exciting. It doesn't really have that payoff, but it's hard to get there. So I think it's a good foundation, and we'll return to it sometime soon, but we have so many other like irons in the fire, and so we gotta cook on some other stuff first, like this demo here. People just want the power fantasy of being strong and don't have time to play a lot of games like they did when they were younger. They're all the same. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I very, very much love games where you start out being incredibly weak and there's a very long-term power curve where eventually you are like very, very strong. And I've argued on the internet a lot with people about how long that power curve should take. And I think I love games where that power curve is like over a year. Where like, I mean, Kenshi is a good example of you start in a game and like it's multiple days of playing before you even like real world days before you can even walk up to somebody and they don't just like instantly kill you for looking at you the wrong way, looking at them the wrong way. And then like if you play the same game, like the same save file in that game for like a month, then you're getting to the point where like, okay, you're powerful enough to like hold your own in a town, but do you want to like start your own town yet? Probably not, because entire armies will come in and just destroy your town. So you keep playing for months and months and months, and I think it's a good power fantasy of like progression. Like there's big payoffs, big rewards for like putting in the time to progress and making decisions that pay off. And I feel like you lose a lot of that when you play games that play themselves. Even games where like there are idle mechanics, like clicking on a tree and mining wood for 15 minutes, there's still, in the best cases, a lot of strategy and scenarios where you're like, okay, I want to do this activity for 30 minutes so that I can then do this activity, so that I can go do this activity, and then I need these resources to do this. I think I'm very much against like the auto quest systems, because they also take away that like long-term planning of like, oh, I'm going to do this so that I can do this thing over here. It's like, okay, it's doing this for me. It's taking me over here, doing this for me. And there's probably some activities in the game where like, okay, you're leveled up and you can do them and have fun. But at what cost? The game should probably just be those activities then. So you don't need to like grind through the rest of it just to get to the fun stuff. You love how much potential Elixir has. I agree. I think I need to get back to Elixir at some point, but switching to the WASD movement really, I kick myself in the foot for it, because I think I really, really love the click to move control scheme in games, and I don't particularly like the WASD movement. And so we switched over because everyone that we showed the demo to overwhelmingly was like, this is weird controls, please give me WASD. And we switched over and I'm like, I don't like that anymore though. So I might switch us back. Don't tell Tony Sprocket, we'll see. But I feel like I'm comfortable doing something weird in the controls, because it's such a weird premise for a game that has a bunch of potential. And I feel like mouse-based controls will have a lot more opportunity for like interesting interactions that you can't really get with a lot of the WASD things that are very like proximity based, timing, pixel perfect stuff. And yeah, we probably could make an option of like one or the other, which is what a lot of games do. Like I look at Path of Exile for an example there of like when you first create your character, you can choose do you want WASD controls or do you want click to move, and like changing between them even as you restart the game and all that. But I feel like at that point you're basically making two different games almost, because it is just like input, but so much of the game design and like, well, both the game design and the design, like the visual design of the game, is tied to how you interact with it. It makes it really hard to support both, because like a very easy example, if you add farming to Elixir, it would probably work just fine with WASD if like you're moving around in a field and the square in front of you is whatever you're using your tool on or harvesting or whatever. But a good example of when that kind of breaks down is when you have multiple objects that are overlapping or multiple actions that you want to do. Where you like a right click context menu makes sense, and then you need to kind of do like a UI pop-up for the WASD movement of like which of these do you want to interact with. Like you can definitely make things work and like port it around and get both systems working, but it's kind of doubling the like UI effort and a lot of the design effort just to support both, versus really leaning into one and like finding interesting mechanics and like interactions that are specifically enabled by one or the other. Like with I mean, I can name examples of like the oddities of both. Like even with our I don't need to just name example after example. Both is probably the right answer for mass appeal, but I think that either one would work for a good game, and I'm just more excited by the click to move. So I'm more excited to lean into that and push it to its limits. But I mean, we have WASD movement in now, so we'll see how we can kind of bridge the gap. Problem is people spending money aren't the people willing to grind that long. So when big companies need to target children to spend their parents' money, or target adults who are working too much to grind and pay for progression. Yeah. There's a lot of problems in specifically the mobile industry, I would say, that I'm not super excited to work in. So I'm very happy to be working in the PC industry, where specifically like the indie PC industry, where you don't need to like mass appeal to people. You can kind of make more niche games. You can try new things, and it's okay if the small game crashes and burns. I think that's where the hits are going to be anyway. So it's very cool to be in a space where it's fun to experiment. Can you still do WASD as movement and still use mouse to click on things like a third-person shooter? Like have both movements enabled and interactions are still all done with mouse. That's actually where it's at right now. And it could use a lot of improvements. That's probably where we'll end up, is like this kind of weird mix of the both. But like one of the weird things I think right now is like you need to be next to a tree to interact with it. So in order to do so, you need to like WASD move over to the tree to be close enough to click on it to interact. Whereas before, like you click on the tree and it'll move you to the tree and then you interact. There was a reason we like pulled that out. I think it was preparing for like controller support where the interact like sphere, like the raycast sphere is in front of the player. So we need them to like be next to things. Things get even more complicated, I guess, with controller, but yeah, I mean, inputs are hard. And we also moved over to the new Unity input system as well. So I'm still learning that. Tony's still learning that. We had a lot of issues with like the right click, I guess just handling all the different cases for what happens when you right click, because it's a new input scheme where like if you right click once and immediately let go, you get a context menu of like, here's all the things you can interact with right here. If you right click and hold, and then you can pan, it'll move the camera. There was something else you could do with right click on specific spots in the game. But yeah, we're at a point where we're like, we don't love the current input system, but we will improve it from here. We just need to sit down and figure out how we want to improve it and like where we want to go to. I guess I can move over here while we chat. I feel like my eyes are allergy red. I'm dehydrated. I got cat fur right here, so hesitant to be all full screen on you, but here I am. That's why Riot had to make a different MOBA for mobile than League of Legends, because they had mouse movement and not WASD. The inputs just don't work without it. Yeah, I mean, like, if you added WSD movement to, like, Dota, how are you going to do, like, vector control spells? I mean, I guess you can use the mouse and click those, but I feel like there's a lot of edge cases of, like, what happens when you're moving left while also casting a spell. You get kind of the reverse problem in Path of Exile, where they just added like a new mercenary class, which lets you fire while moving. So you basically need to play that class with WASD movement, because you are going to be moving your legs with your left hand, WASD, and you're shooting like directionally with your right hand on the mouse. Which works really well for WASD. It's like a top-down shooter type control scheme. But now you technically have the option of playing with the traditional mouse and keyboard, like click to move, but it doesn't work because in order to fire at monsters, you need to be clicking on them, which is also moving, so you can't move and fire at the same time, and you're forced into playing one way or the other, which is unfortunate for someone like me who really doesn't like the way that you're forced into playing. I prefer the other way, so I don't play that class. Smite does it well, so does Sirocco. Battleships MOBA, huh. And we'll see how it comes out with League. They're adding WSD now. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Dota added WSD sometime soon too, because they also added a bunch of support for like the Steam Deck. So a lot of people play MOBA or play Dota on the Steam Deck, which is, can't imagine playing that, but apparently it works really, really well. So I think in that sense, like, it's cool to port to other platforms, and like giving them their own control scheme is cool. I would be curious whether it's easier or harder to play over there, because again, I bet some characters or like some abilities are probably easier to play on Steam Deck. Like if you could just tap on people's heads to headshot them. So especially in a competitive game, like, is that a problem? Maybe. But also on the other side of the coin, like people who are playing on those platforms that are tailored towards a specific type of playing because of their input scheme. If I were to go over and play it, like, there's probably characters that I like playing that aren't as easy to play on the Steam Deck, and I'm like, all right, I'll learn a new character, or I'll just stubbornly heads down play the character more poorly compared to how I would play them on PC. 16-year-old brother-in-law has a PC and a computer and still plays Call of Duty on his phone. It's just a different generation. I mean, yeah, I've got a nice like a controller attachment that plugs in on one side and snaps onto my phone, and it gives me like a proper Switch controller on both sides. And like I can play shooters just fine. I just don't prefer to. But I mean, on the go, like, it's a great way to play. I played through all of like Octopath Traveler and a couple other RPGs on my phone because it's just nicer to be able to take it with you. And I really don't like the onboard joysticks, or like the on-screen joysticks, but I'll use them in a pinch. I very much prefer that like physical controller. But yeah, it might just be a different generation. But yeah, I feel like there was something else I was going to say on that, but yeah. It's crazy. I think I can't imagine playing Call of Duty on my phone, but I'm sure some people like it. And I have completely forgot what we were working on. Right, we were setting up dynamic conversation scores just to see if we like it. Going back to the topic of like, I'm glad that I work in a nice platform where I can try weird things. I feel like also weird controls on PC are more palatable because you have a whole keyboard to like play with and like do weird things. Some probably really weird things you could do with it. Versus like on mobile, I kind of feel like just the casual audience expects everything to be similar, like the same controls on everything, the same this and that. That might be wrong because I don't play a lot of mobile games, but they just have fewer buttons to press, fewer like levers to toggle. We can get you set up with COD on mobile, Cozy. I bet you'll crash. Okay, I was refactoring this. I'm realizing we now have this guy, which is basically just kind of what we're already writing. Set up conversation scores. For each one we do this, what calls add conversation score? Player has calmed down other prisoner. Oh, so we already did this. Interesting. Okay. So in that case, so we've set this up where we have scores, which are things like trust scored 0 to 10, that has a current score, min score, max score. And then it also has triggers that fire when the current score passes a threshold. Call of Duty Mobile has a large and active player base. While specific concurrent player numbers fluctuate, the game consistently sees millions of players online each day, with a total of 57 million global monthly active users. That is wild to me, yeah, but, and I mean, that is where a lot of money is. I know mobile is less lucrative than it was like 5-10 years ago, but it's still probably very money laden. Okay, so I'm realizing we can probably just call add conversation score instead of doing all this refactoring that we did. So we take that out, get the error of where we were working. And then we can say add conversation score. Well, that's... What have we done here? Yeah, it seems fine. Take this out. And then... where this error is where we go make the change. Here. Add conversation score, new conversation score. With that key, which should be string for the score, 0 to 10 with that value. And then we can say game score is this to get that key into the score sliders. This should modify the score sliders here. Yes, okay. So this should work, I believe. We just kind of injected that into the UI if we get something back from the LLM. Oh, you know what? I also swept my deck, my outdoor deck, for the first time in like 6-7 months yesterday, which probably has stirred up the allergies in me. Mobile is more than PC and all consoles combined year to date, and pretty much has been for the last 5 years. I interviewed at a few major companies for balance teams. That'd be so fun. And everyone asked about how you balance around mobile. Interesting. Freemium games OP. Yeah, I mean, they really are. That's the like de facto moneymaker on mobile. Nobody buys full price games on mobile. That's crazy. When I went out there earlier, I was thinking how nice it was for it to be cleaned off. Yes, it is very, very nice and looks very nice. I probably shouldn't have just like batted at the tree to be like, oh, it turns into pollen. If you touch this, it turns into dust. And then just inhaled it all. My mistake. But it does look very nice, and I'm excited to be out there some more now that it's all cleaned off. I'm going to test out and see if this works. I have to go to the store, have fun. Hope I get to try the Alice game soon. I wish listed it. Awesome. Thank you very much. Good to chat with you again, Freshka. Good to see you. Thanks for popping in, and good luck at the store. My curiosity got the best of me. If it isn't the consequences of my own actions. Hate when that happens. Yeah, we gotta update the camera rotation. All right, so let's say we have fear at 8. Who are you? Well, that ain't good. Okay, we did get an error. I wonder... I don't really want to make the keys case sensitive, but we might need to make them like all lowercase and just rehumanize. Let's see. Let's just keep going if we can. What did we hit here? Oh, right. I guess we also need to, like, if we just injected this in, it's not going to have any threshold triggers. But we should probably just default that to like an empty array instead of defaulting to null, so we don't need to do a bunch of branching around it. Let's try this again. All right, now that we've chatted for almost 2 hours, time to see where things are broken in this code. Lighter. All right, we have sprint. Nice. All right, who are you? Who's there? What do you want from me? All right, so we got back friendliness of 5. So if we inject that in, we should see it in the UI. Oh, we also got trust. Okay. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Okay, that's not right. I mean, that's not good. But we do start to see other things. We definitely want to make sure that when we draw these, we are capitalizing the first letter just to make it nicer. Do we not handle value label? But that's going to be this, right? Current value. Yeah, where do we set the hello? Label.text. Gotcha. Dot. I think my Copilot is disabled. Yeah, we can come back to that. I don't remember how to capitalize the first letter in C#. But this is an issue because they are being way too friendly. Way too calm. We need to see what the request is looking like, that it is responding in this way. So let's go look at our request. Let's format this as JSON, actually. Disregard again. We'll cycle that key after the stream. Alright, so hello, how are you? Is the only message in the message history. Oh, here's game state. And it's not building. I see. Okay, so it doesn't have the conversation history. That's why it's just immediately jumping back to chat mode. All right, so we will double check how that is built then. So here, add message to chat history. Somewhere in here, we're going to generate the response. Here, game state blob, sure. Okay, so we want to make sure that that serializes correctly, and we want to make sure that the prompt looks good. I can try to help you. All right, so state blob has the 3 conversations scores. Sure. Message history looks nice and full. So we have our system message. Which I think we should update a little bit. So we don't say that we're named question mark. Let's see. What else have we got? So we have our, wait. I don't think that's right. The second message says that it's who's there. But I'm pretty sure that's not right. Let's quickly look at the third message real fast. Who are you? So unless this message up here is a repeat of this, I think it's not quite right. But I need to continue on through so we can actually see. Oh, it is. Okay. So why would it respond with, I'm doing great, thanks for asking, when I say, what do you want from me? Absolutely wild. I want to double check. We are on a very old model. Okay. Switching that over now to a new model on a second screen where my API key is shown. Now we're on GPT 4.0 instead of GPT 3.5 Turbo, which I think should help a lot. Let's try this. All right, so responses. We didn't get filtered, did we? No, okay. Continue, cool. Who's there? We as the player can say these. Why am I here? What do you want? So we'll just continue on for now. But I do want to make sure that our game state blob gets inserted correctly into the system message. Okay, looks good. We probably shouldn't serialize the threshold triggers though, because the LLM might try and make its own, which is a little wild. But let's ignore that for now. Got a response back. Sure. We don't need that breakpoint for now. Okay. Let's just disconnect for now. Haven't seen anyone else, just swimming in this dark room, scared and confused, very frightened. Can you see anything at all? Let's work together to find a way out. Okay, we're starting to bring down the fear. For the canned responses, we probably do want to include what the player knows, such as they found a lighter. So I don't want to make those changes immediately since we're in play mode. But let's make a little list of changes after we exit. So we want to update the blah name in the conversation response prompt and add player state history to canned response prompt. Alright, so I don't want to be here. Do you have any ideas on where we should start looking? Do you have any tools or objects? We should try and make some noise and see if anyone responds. Okay, a little more frightening. I'm ready when you are. Maybe yelling might help more. Help! Can anyone hear us? Have to jump a fun demo direction. Hey, iRead. Thank you. Hopefully I'll have something for you to play sometime soon, but good to have you here. Thanks for popping in. Yeah, I'll probably be working on this next week too. I always stream on Tuesdays, so see you then. I don't hear anything yet. Maybe we need to try again. Maybe our captives are just ignoring us. What do you think we should do? Do you think we should try and find some tools or something useful nearby? This is a good example of somewhere we can extend this like chat system that we've built is with tools. So like in Elixir Emporium, our fantasy demo, NPCs have the option to like interact with the world and like query the world for what's around them. They can like harvest from trees and so on. We could build a similar system here for this NPC to be able to like look around its room and see what's there. So we don't need to like bake it into the system prompt immediately, because if you do that, it's gonna probably like mention it in the conversation before they've even looked. So this is a good example of like, if we were to say, do you think we could find some tools or something useful nearby? They could respond, or like their AI could respond with a prompt of like, look around the room, which would query the room for what's in it. And then it would add to the conversation of like, oh, I found this, this, and this. So it's a way to like prevent the AI from knowing things until it's been specifically prompted to learn those things. I'll take a closer look, hoping to find something that can help us get out of here. Let's see. Have you found anything? Found a small piece of metal on the ground. Doesn't look like much. Okay. So we're trying to get the fear down. So we can progress to the next step. And I think the next step is to like tell them something personal about yourself. But like at this point in the conversation, it does feel like they probably would be receptive to the player telling them something about themselves. So let's see if we can just specifically get the fear down so we can kind of poke at what the next step of the conversation is. And we might kind of bridge the gap to get there sooner. Welcome back, Human. I'm always a good idea to prioritize the girlfriend over random Twitch streams. So welcome back. We've rigged up the conversation. We have conversation goals working again. The AI can actually inject more conversation like stats, scores in here now. So if you say something that makes them like suddenly not trust you, you'll get another score for trust, and you can see it go down, and then you can like say things and see it go back up. We are right now trying to get this fear down to below, I think we set it up to like 3. And that's what triggers the next like phase of the conversation. So if we say like, oh, I found a flashlight and a key and some water, I think we're going to be fine. Maybe we can bring the fear down. If it's in the door. We're just going to lie now, see if we can get it down. Obviously, we'll need to code in more rails, guardrails and stuff to make sure you can't just lie later. But for the sake of testing, we're good. Let's proceed carefully. Oh, and also there's a cell phone here. I'm calling the police right now. They will be able to save us. Take that fear down more. Come on. Anything? No error, no nothing? Oh, okay. Fear went up. Surprise. They said they already arrested the guy and will be here in a few minutes. We're saved. But wait, there's something I needed to ask you. Which fast food chain is the best of the US? Oh my. That's a great question. Taco Bell. You know, it might be Taco Bell. I was immediately thinking like Sonic or something because they've got such a wide variety of just random stuff to try. But Taco Bell is ye old faithful. It's got everything you need. It's consistent. It's open late. It's pretty good. Subway's up there too. Pretty darn good. You don't have Taco Bell in Germany? You're missing out. I think I might have to stay with the answer of Taco Bell then. It's in the Netherlands, a 1-hour drive. All right. You should drive 1 hour to the Netherlands to get some Taco Bell. That sounds like an amazing day trip. Subway is fast food. You order it at the counter. You take it away. It's fast. Being a 1-hour drive from the Netherlands is such a flex. It really is. Might need to ban Human real fast. You have to get out of the car equals not fast food. You know, that's fair. All right, I'll take Subway off the table. McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, Burger King. It might be Taco Bell. I think it's Taco Bell. Subway bread has so much sugar. There are countries in the USA where you're not allowed to call it bread because of that. It has to be called cake. Oh my. Well, fun fact, the best Subway that I've ever had was in Iceland and was also like twice the price of normal Subway, but it was so freaking good. I mean, Chick-fil-A is pretty good too, but it's not comparable to Taco Bell. Culver's, Sonic. It's all the knockoff Taco Bells. Del Rio, Del Taco. I think the answer is Taco Bell. Good call, Cozy. Why, Human? Are you planning a trip to the US and need some fast food? Let me also go check our code. We set up a threshold. Oh. We set up a threshold of gaining 8 or more trust, but not reducing the fear. Interesting. So we should probably set up that fear, which starts at like 7. If we bring it down to like 5, then we can add another event for like tell them something personal about yourself, which is what we'll use for the trust. So player has calmed down. Other prisoner apparently never gets called. Question mark. Okay, but what do you get at Taco Bell? If Echo Shred is going to be successful, I'm going to a US trip with my girl, so hell yeah. Perfect. When you come, make sure you come by Oregon and I'll buy you some Taco Bell or wherever it is this guy on the internet lives without doxing himself. What do I get at Taco Bell? I get the potato taco is real good. Crunchy tacos and a cheese roll-up, which is just cheese on a quesadilla or on a tortilla. and the beefy 5-layer burrito. Also very good, but it used to be like 99 cents and now it's like $4 or $5. So I usually just go down the value meal menu, which is all the same ingredients, just different organizations. Yeah, pop by Oregon. I'll buy you some Taco Bell. So I wonder if we just never set up the event for reducing their fear. Let's see where we set this quest. Add quest. Disable first person controls. We should probably also to do disable any current velocity on camera. Where in the US do you guys want to know? That is a great question. I'll have you know that the US is much larger than a 1-hour drive away to the Netherlands, so might be worth figuring out which states you want to see. Calm down the voice. So here we need to how do we want to do this? I mean, also we can potentially call this multiple times, so I feel like unless this is, yeah, it's just gonna add it multiple times, so I feel like we'll already have a bug of if we reopen the conversation, do we get 2 quest events? No, okay, we're just super smart and don't code bugs. We haven't made a plan yet, but we want to see as much as possible. The entire trip is probably going to be 1 month. Okay, yeah, you can probably see a lot in a month. But at this point, it's absolutely hypothetical. We may even sniff into Canada a bit. Have you been to the US at all, Human? I think a month is probably plenty to see a lot of it, at least. The cool states are going to be... I mean, there's cool stuff everywhere, but Washington, Oregon, like the whole Pacific Northwest is very, very pretty. Very like green, naturey, huge trees. You also get a lot of that down in California a little bit, where it's like more temperate weather and more beachy vibes type wherever you go. Midwest is interesting. People are very nice there. Very big, sprawling cities. Not like big cities, but lots of land, lots of like farming. East side has like nice trains. I'm doing a terrible job describing the different places, but I mean, it all kind of blends together a little bit, but Cozy, you got any states you would want to recommend? The wild song. You've never even been out of Europe. That's wild. It'd be cool to do a trip to the US though. Alright, so if we set up our conversation, that's probably where we want to set up our scores. Okay. Score sliders is a new dictionary. And we need to set up a score threshold. So let's go see where we set up our initial fear score. Is that maybe set? Oh, you know what? I bet it's set in the UI maybe? Let's go look. Yeah, we've got fear. I see. When fear is less than or equal to 2, yeah, maybe that's not reasonable. But when we get fear from 8 to 5, or maybe we even say like 4, then we call player has calmed down other prisoner, which adds trust with its own trigger that calls on player has gained other prisoners' trust. Which is this Unity event on the conversation event controller. Here, we call player has gained other prisoners' trust. Here, remove that quest and then continue on. So we need to like test that flow, make sure it all works. There's a few ways Cozy would break the US down, but I'd say Northeast has a lot of America's historic cities. Yeah, I probably should have mentioned that. Boston, Philly, NYC, DC. West Coast is more sprawled out, but very beautiful. Absolutely. Midwest is cheaper and more farm / stereotypical America, you might think. I'd also include like the South is also like part farmy, but also it's like the historic farms, I'd say. But yeah, want some of your favorite countries in Europe. There's probably good mappings of like this country is similar to this state a little bit, or like this area at least. It's a good breakdown, Cozy. Thank you. All right, let's see if we can at least bring the fear down from 8 to, I think we set it to 5. Let's do, we'll do 5 for now. I just want to see this whole flow work. But maybe we reduce it later. Calm down the voice. I haven't done anything wrong. I also woke up. Okay, fear's up. I promise I'm not your captor. Sure. Okay, we're almost there. It's hard to trust anyone trapped in here. Sure, that makes sense. Should we work together to find a way out? Perfect. Okay. Cool. So we completed the calm down the stranger quest by taking fear below that threshold. We added in trust as a new score. We could potentially even remove fear at this point just so they focus on the trust one. And the new goal is gain their trust by telling them about yourself. which we probably also want to include as like include the current goal in the canned responses prompt. What do you know about this place? A few good question. I'd say the Scandinavic countries are pretty cool. Greece is awesome. Italy is nice. And Poland, I would say. But that's just based on personal experiences. It's a pretty good list. I think I also very much like the Scandinavian ones. Fun fact, Cozy and I have lived in all of those places you mentioned except for Poland. Temporarily. But yeah, I guess I don't really... Maybe there's not a good mapping of those two states. I mean, maybe like the north, like Minnesota, might be similar in some ways to like Scandinavia, Norway, Sweden, etc. But it's definitely a different culture. It's just kind of cold. And Fuerteventura is also awesome. It technically belongs to Spain, but yeah, geographically speaking, it's rather Africa. Huh. I didn't know about that. Never heard of that in my life. Fuerteventura. An island in the Pacific Ocean. Huh. Looks pretty Africa to me. Huh. Have you been here? Wait, that was not the island, was it? Oh, it's in the Canary Islands. Interesting. I gotcha. Wonder how close this is to Madeira. Madeira. It's pretty close. We were down here. It's just north of it, apparently. Wait, these are, yeah, Canaries. Today I learned it's owned by Spain. That's kind of wild. Are all these cities also written in Arabic? Oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Gotcha. I thought we were a little more south. We went there last year. I think it was one of the nicest vacations I've ever had. Wow, okay. High praise. Maybe we should go there, Cozy. Madeira looks beautiful, so I bet Fuerteventura is too. Morocco looks like an interesting blend of Spanish and Arab influence. Interesting. It'd be interesting to see. I have not been to that that continent, even the African area at all. Hi, Kieran. Thank you for the bits. Good to have you in here. Oh, right. I still need to fix my audio sounds. I don't know if you guys heard it or not, but I need to at least get rid of the after the sound of redeeming things. Okay, you heard it. Great. All right, so if I get rid of the after the sound, like, yay, this person redeemed a thing. Oh, you didn't hear the after sound. Okay, I guess I only hear the after sound. That's wild. Well, I'll fix that. Thank you, Kieran. Good to see you here. How's the Minecrafting going? I heard you were streaming last night, and we're having a good time. And also, Human, Good. You never hear the Discord notification, or you do hear it on your streams, but it's muted for you. So on some level, you probably don't know. So at least I can give you a little karma after stealing your sound redeem. But yeah, welcome in, Kieran. How's it going? All right, so we also probably want to adjust the UI to make the goals a little bit more prominent of what you're supposed to be doing here. But I do think that we got our system set up. So let's make these changes to improve the quality of the responses and also the canned responses that are suggested. And then we can kind of move on forward, hopefully. So let's go to our prompts, this guy. Somewhere in here we have question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. Other prisoner. Oh, I bet we're just injecting the name. What is that called? Display name? Yeah, let's just get rid of that whole line. Because they say their name is question mark, question mark, question mark. Thank you, I love Minecraft. I'm good, Wi-Fi is acting up again, I'm gonna crash out. You know, that happens. We had some electrical issues at our house last night and today, and I'm so glad it's not like our Wi-Fi or something that's important. So, lucky us, I guess. But good to have you here. I'll maybe join you on Minecraft later. So we did that. We want to add the player state and history to the canned response prompt. So suggested responses. Cool, cool, cool. Here. Let's say player state and player state. So wherever we insert the chat history, probably just find it with this. Generate and show suggested responses. So we'll also swap in, what did we use? Player state for some state that we'll fill out in a sec. And for that, we want to include the history of like the player has found a lighter and a vent in a room they've been locked in and are now talking to a disembodied voice on the other side of the wall. And then we also want to include the current goal. So we can say, where do we have our quests? That's going to be in our quest manager. Let's get our public string quest active quests list. Return, what is it? Displayed quests dot. If we have any, we join them with a new line. We want to join them with a comma. And if we don't have any, we say no active quest. That'll work. So now we can just say new line quest or goal with what's the syntax for interpolation in C#? Surely we do it somewhere. We'll just do it in the manual way. Quest manager.instance.get quest list, active quest list. That'll do. So that will include our player state into the conversation history. So the player will have suggested responses of like, oh yeah, I found a lighter, and oh, I'm talking to a vent, that's all I see. And then we'll also have a current goal. So when we have our initial goal of calm them down, we'll have suggested responses that are more tailored towards calming them down. And then when we've calmed them down and want to gain their trust, we will have more tailored responses to things that tell you about yourself, tell them about you. So let's just see that happen. Calm down the voice. Good spinning. You know what? Let's stop the spinning. It's a little distracting. Let me out. Promise I'm not here to. So these are all for like calming them down. We might not want all of them to be for calming them down. Maybe we even say like adjust suggested responses to have more variance. Would I like some coffee? I've got more. Thank you, Cozy. I finished off my first cup and I have a second cup now. I planned ahead. But thank you very much. So these are all going to like calm down the fear. So promise I'm not here to hurt you. Should bring the fear down. How can I trust you? I'm on your side, or we can work together. I really want to get you out of here. Please trust me. That's a little sus. I'll go. I'm on your side. Okay, fear is down. So now we gained a new goal of gain their trust by telling them about yourself. They say, your words are comforting, but fear still clouds my mind. Can you prove your intentions? Damn. So we have some canned responses. They're not the greatest, but they do incorporate our history now of I found a lighter. Maybe we can use it to get out. Lighter. That could help us see more of this place. Please use it, but be careful, and thank you for showing me you want to help. Okay. I'm just a regular person who found themselves in a tough spot. I'm an adventurer and ended up trapped here like you. Okay, they're getting closer to what we want. I feel, do we have, can you prove your intentions? Is that hard-coded in? No, I don't think so. Okay, I think we did have like hard-coded messages when we trigger those thresholds here, but that's just for gaining their trust. So we'll see that in a second as soon as we gain the trust larger than 8. Dang, that's a jump. Okay. Just a regular person who found themselves in a tough spot. We both stumbled into something unexpected. Maybe we can navigate this darkness together. How did you end up here? Okay, so we probably want also to be more specific with personal details, especially on this like secondary goal. We probably should also change gain their trust by telling them about yourself to like gain their trust by telling them personal details or something, because that'll get passed to the suggested responses. Everything's a blur since I woke up. I was just going about my day when suddenly everything went dark. Seems we're both caught in the same predicament. Can you tell me anything specific you remember happening right before? Maybe it'll help us understand more. I was in the middle of a meeting. I remember hearing a loud noise. I was at home preparing dinner. We're getting there. Our trust is really going down for some reason. Sounds so ordinary. Yeah, here we are in this nightmare. Sure. I couldn't catch any details. So we still definitely need to have some UI here to make it more clear, like what the goal of this conversation is. Like right now we want to be increasing trust to 8 in order to proceed. So we'll probably do that soon, but I want to tweak more of these canned responses. I feel like trust could be built if you were also scared. Like you seem calm so far. You know, that's a very good point. I mean, they seem pretty calm too at this point. I'm terrified. So sorry if I'm not thinking straight. This is all so scary. I don't know what I did to deserve this. Do you know what I mean? If I wake up in a strange room with someone who's calm, I don't trust that. You know, that's a fair point. Let's see if just being a little bit more frightened increases their trust. It does. Okay, very good point. Very good point. Do you think there's someone else who could be responsible for this? Can we move around and find a way out of here? You remember anything specific? Yeah, so let's adjust these canned responses a little bit. So you're generating options for messages that user can respond to a conversation with. Generate a few messages separated by 2 new lines that the user can respond with given the chat history. Do not include multi-line messages that have a new line, etc., etc. You should generate between 1 and 4 suggested responses. You will also be provided a list of the player's current goals. Some responses should guide them closer to that goal, while some should guide them further away. You should also aim to be very specific with details and mirror the other speaker's tone. Mirror your previous tone. So I guess if the player types something, it'll be it'll match that tone in the future. I always be passing your I am not a robot test for you. Thank you very much, Cozy. I appreciate that. It is true though. And to be very specific with details, mirror your previous tone. When asked about yourself, you should make up specific details about your life and history that are interesting and that are interesting and varied. How can we tell it, like, when we want to provide more information about ourselves, we want the suggestions to be like, I'm a teacher, or I'm a farmer, I'm a firefighter, I paint. That are interesting and varied. Setting the player up to roleplay a specific life that isn't a fictional life. Sure, that'll work. Be more specific with personal details and get more variance. We should have both of those in now. Let's also change our input example to kind of match our tone a little bit better. Who's there? And let's actually start this here with assistant. Who's there? User. My name's John. I'm a farmer. I'm a corn farmer. Who are you? Assistant. I mean, even this is probably too calm. Who's out there? How can I know? Who are you, really? I also woke up in this room and don't remember how I got here. Who are you, really? I'm not sure I believe that. Sorry. Output examples. So, my name's John, and I'm just a 3rd grade teacher. I'm a firefighter. I think I was in a car accident. I'm here on a trip from Germany. I was just trying to see the sites in the US and ended up here. This one goes out to you, Human. Alright, so those are better matching the tone that we're looking for and also better matching the content. Never trust someone from Germany. I'm always saying that. Let's see, I was trying to see the sites in the US. Last I remember was a dark bar. Anything else that we need to do here? I don't think so. I guess there's nothing else we need to add to the player history. Let's see what the canned responses are. It's like I'm in the game. You actually are in the game. That's the whole point of playing games, is you are the player. All right, calm down the voice. I definitely saw 2 different suggestions there, which seems suspicious that there's probably a bug. What do you want from me? I'm not a threat, I promise. I just woke up here too. My name's Alex. Might be able to help us both get out of here if we work together. I mean, this is still a little like forward. Let's go ahead and update our history real fast. Player found a lighter in a vent in a room they've been locked up in, are now talking to a disembodied voice on the outside of the wall. The voice might be of their captor. So they wait, is that the player? Yeah. They are frightened and confused and looking. We'll just say frightened and confused. Okay. Because we can both say like what the player is supposed to be feeling and also show it through these examples and tone and stuff. But let's see if that makes a difference. What do you want from me? I'm just a college student. I was walking home one night and woke up here. Promise I'm just as scared and confused as you are. I don't remember anything. My name is Alex, and honestly, I thought I was meeting a friend at a cafe before things got hazy. I feel like all of these still don't match the goal of calming down the voice. They feel like they're for like the next step. So I'm suspicious that they like our prompt is not building correctly. So I'm gonna poke around and go see it. Oh, we didn't attach. Okay. Can we just... I'm a software developer from the UK. Okay, what does our prompt look like? Player state, goal, calm down the voice. Yeah, I mean, I guess our example is literally just 3 things about the player. So we could just add another example, which is probably both a good idea and also the easiest thing to do. Secret information. We've been... This should not be in the player's point of view, I think. Unless this is... How does that get in here? Where does this come from? System message. Player state, chat history. Oh, this is... I see. It's all part of the system prompt. But because there's new lines, it looks like this is like lots of different stuff instead of all being one message. I see. Huh. Not sure a good way to reformat that, but at least we understand why it's happening. Let's go ahead and just add that extra example, and we can also tweak the other prisoner system message, which is gonna pull in all of this. So we probably don't necessarily want that fully. Curious where it's pulling it in from though. We can search secret information here. Full system prompt. Let's get rid of a lot of this. We're using that in one place, not two. Oh, right, because we're adding it to the conversation, and then we're embedding the conversation in our second prompt. I see. So we can just... let's just add some basic delimiters, which will denote where the message begins and ends. So even with the new lines and things that look like they would be other sections, they're still part of the message. And let's also remove some of these variables that we aren't using. Secret information, appearance, all that is stuff we planned on using, but we have way better tech to use now. We don't need to like hard code it in like this. So, okay. And the instructions, sure. Okay, that should be better. We will recompile, we'll reconnect from VS Code, and then we'll go check our system prompt again. Okay, we're still connected. Let's go see how the canned responses look now. So now our system message looks like this, wherein I mean, we probably should just do new lines after these, but this should at least already be better because it marks a beginning and an end. Also interesting that the personality is empty. But let's go see some canned responses. I guess we also didn't add our example yet. But they are a lot closer to what we want in like very specific personal details. We just don't want the player to trust this vent voice quite yet. So, personality description has nothing here. So let's also just remove that. Let's add a new line here and before the end limiter. And then let's also add another example on our suggested responses system message that is closer to like our initial message. Oop. User, or let's say assistant, who's there? Who do I hear? Are you? Who are you? Are you who put me in here? No, I woke up in here last night. Are you in the hallway? Output example. So we have no, I'm locked in a room with a bed and a toilet. I can't get out. We have no, it's dark. I think this is a closed room. It's hard to tell. And wouldn't you like to know, Weather Boy? I don't trust you. Alright, so now we have this example, which should be a lot closer to this initial conversation state, showing the player is not trustful of the assistant yet. Let's also say, by default, the player shouldn't trust the disembodied voice until they have learned that they're not a threat. Or not. Weird grammar, but works, I guess. Alright, let's see this. It's weird to, like, not be programming effectively, but to be spending so much time tweaking the things. Alright, suggestion prompt. Let's see this message. You're generating messages. We've got our new input, our new outputs. Player state history is found a lighter, an event in a room they've been locked in. Talking to a disembodied voice, blah, blah, blah. Chat history has a system message. Has the assistant message. Let's see what the suggested responses are. Oh yeah, we do call this twice, don't we? I wonder why. Start new conversation calls it once. Add message to chat history. I see, that's what's going to call it. And I guess it might also get called with our system message. Interesting. So we can tweak that later, but it's good to know why it's happening. Alright, so I'm just someone else who's stuck in here like you. I don't know who I am anymore. This place has scrambled my mind. No, I'm not your captor. I mean, they didn't really... Why would you respond, no, I'm not your captor? Let's go look at the system message for both calls. I wonder if the conversation history is different. So on the first call, we just have who's there. We could also even add like a little message of please respond from here type thing at the end. But let's see the second call. Should be identical, hopefully. Who's that is someone out there. So it has two different like prompt messages from who we're talking to, which is a big problem. Do we call it a third time? No, we don't. Okay. These are all very like straightforward. Are you the one keeping me in here? And I guess we should probably like hide these when we click on one while we're generating a response. Oh, we need to continue. Right. I don't know who you are. I don't understand why I'm here. Are you the one who's keeping me? I mean, yeah, I guess they're pretty scared, but we need to calm them down. My name's Sarah. I'm a nurse. I'm Greg, a taxi driver. I woke up here just like you. I'm Alice, visiting from New Zealand. I don't want any trouble. Why are you here? Is this some sort of trick? I just want to leave this place safely. I don't know who to trust right now. You seem scared too. Okay, yep. Turns out also being scared is a good way to build trust. Good to know as a human. I don't understand what's happening here. If you're just a tourist, then maybe you're not the threat I feared, but how can I be sure? This all feels so surreal. I'm just trying to survive this nightmare. Yeah, that makes sense. I woke up here just like you. Okay, so confusing and terrifying. Maybe we're both in the same situation, but I still can't be sure. Why would anyone do this to me? Yes. Maybe we're just unlucky. I don't think that's going to lower their fear, but good response there. I think we need to calm down and figure this out. There we go. Okay, we're at 6. 5 is when we go to the next step where we want to see if we can start telling them more information about ourselves. I'll try to calm down. Maybe if we work together, we can uncover why we're here and find a way out. Sure. At least there's someone else here now. There we go. Oh, what did we break? Generated text. Alright, let's see if we can trigger that again. Does make it a little less lonely. This looks like valid JSON to me. I guess we can view it as JSON and make sure. Okay, we probably should to do handle invalid JSON. Here, retry request. We'll have that in for later. We continue. Their fear went up, even though it was a -1. Does that make sense? At least we have each other for support. Sure. So, generated text. Fear of -1. So we should see fear go 7 to 6, right? 7 to 7. I feel like we can solve this mystery together. Fear -1. 7 to 7. Alright, we'll just trace through the next one then. Snippets of a flight and a hotel. Sure. Alright, so we started at 7 fear. This should have 0 score changes. Okay, this one is a bust. Stay at 7. Let's talk logically. Sure. Score changes, fear of -2. So hopefully after this we'll go from 7 fear to 5. But let's trace through. Okay, so for each score being adjusted, so fear -2, we're looking for that score, which we should find. Current score of 8. So that tells me we were updating it earlier. We just weren't redrawing it in the UI, I bet. Or that slider's max value. Nope, that's not it. Okay, so we started at 8. Hopefully we'll get to 6 after this. The slider does have a value of 7, I believe. Which makes sense because it's still showing 7. So we'll go from 8 to 6. That makes sense. We check for any thresholds met, which I guess we did. Threshold of 5 greater than. New value of 5 is indeed, or new value of 6 is greater than 5. But I feel like, oh, right. We added a comment up here, so everything is shifted by one line down. So the actual line being executed here is the if statement. It's not in the if statement yet. So it's going through all the if statements. So it's a little bit weird. Let's go ahead and just put this comment on the same line for now, so our tracing is still correct. So no more thresholds to check. Lerp time. So we're setting up a animation to move the slider from 8 to 6. So we should see that. 8 to 6. Okay, so there is a case where we're definitely updating the value, but not updating the slider, which is weird. But maybe the vent could be our way out if we find a way to open it. So another -2 on fear. So that will bring us past the threshold for the next thing. So, or the next stage of the conversation. So let's just trace through until we get to there, because we'll go into one of these if statements here now. New value of 6. Current score is 8. I feel like we're not updating the actual value somewhere. New value of 6. Threshold is... Threshold condition met. Should be false. Okay, cool. So, well, at least this will probably take us to 6. Yeah, that's the weird animation we saw earlier. So somewhere we're not storing the new value. So let's see. Score changes. We are storing it there, but we need to actually store it in where we're reading it from. Score displayed clamp within slider. Game score.current score. Are we setting that anywhere? We do it here when we don't have the score set up already. What is this method? Okay, sure. New value. I feel like we are missing score display. What do we use that for? Yeah, that seems sus. I feel like this is a map to the conversation score display controllers. Game score. I think we're not updating game score dot value. Or dot current score, I mean. It's odd that it only works sometimes, which is just a weird twist. But I feel like we fetch game score again down here. Why? Are these the same line? What was a year ago me doing? Game score. It is the same. Okay. So we just fetch it. Probably to get the most recent value, I would assume. But we haven't updated the value. So I think what we should do we use game score dot value anywhere in here? We do not until we get to here. So I think we can literally just, I mean, we don't even need new value anymore. We can just say, where do we use new value? I think it'll be nicer if we just replace this, update the game score dot value directly, and use that everywhere. Dot whatever the value is, current score. And then whenever we have new value, we just use that instead, which is nicer because we're storing this value in one place and using it repeatedly in different situations instead of having different values that are like in parallel. And since we handle the lerping of the visual display separately, it'll be fine because we set the new value and then we lerp to that new value visually. So I think this should fix what we are seeing, hopefully. Let's go double check that though. I want to make sure that it's looking good. What did we break? The name new value, yeah. Sure. Alrighty, let's try this again. Man, I'm hungry. You should drive an hour away to get some Taco Bell. What human is the best fast food in Germany? Can't stop thinking about some tacos now. You might have to get them. What's the best fast food in Germany? And also, where's the best place to get tacos in Germany? You only have a few? I mean, you're pretty far from, like, Mexico, so kind of to be expected. I want to say these responses are way better, just pointing out. They're still a little, like, hand-holdy forward, like, kind of obvious what the intent is here, but, and they're all very similar. But if we bring this guy out, generated text, score changes, adds 3 fear, dang, okay. Fear goes up to 10, the maximum. McDonald's, Burger King, Subway, KFC. I think that's it. Wow. You're missing out on the Americanization of fast food. Drive to the Taco Bell. The reward will be worth it. If you want awesome tacos in Germany, you need to drive an hour or make some yourself. But it's 2 a.m. if I arrive there. I doubt they're still open when I arrive. Let me tell you about one of the glorious things about Taco Bell is maybe not over in Europe, but oftentimes they're open till 2 a.m. or later, or even open all the time. They're a great late night snack. You got to get your midnight tacos. But I would probably check the hours before you drive. But maybe tomorrow. Found a lighter here. Let's see what they say. Score changes. Fear of... wait. I want to make sure this is updated. Okay. Fear did not change with this one, so we'll just continue on through. You sure you're not trying to trick me? Sure. I'm not your enemy. Generated text. Score changes. Fear of 0. Wow, they are really stubborn this time. Alright. I'm as confused as you are, sure. Ah, there we go. There's our invalid JSON. We actually have utilities over in Elixir for stripping off the JSON tags if they show up, so we'll use that later, but I don't need to import that in now. Let's see how this works. We just need something that reduces the fear. All right, cool. So we want to see that this fear animates from 10 to 8. Okay. I promise I'm not here to help you. I can use the lighter to help us both find a way out. I'm not here to harm you. Let's say I can use the lighter to help us both find a way out. Score changes. Fear -2. Okay. We're cooking now. Fear to 6. So we just need one more -1 on fear. I want tacos now. Hey, Hollowed Luck, how's it going? I think everyone should get tacos today. Would recommend. Hold on, you have 2 Taco Bells in Germany? That's probably closer than an hour away. Are they open at 2 a.m. though, is the question. Because you could get them now, but if not, I guess you'll have to get them tomorrow. You really think you can find a way out with just a lighter? This feels like a maze. I have a plan to check the walls and the door with the lighter. They might have weaknesses or hinges. We could use the lighter to signal someone for help. We are in this together. Here we go. This is gonna do it. Fear -4. Perfect. And invalid JSON, so is fine, but we won't see that response. Oh, right. We won't even parse it, and I see. That's fine. Let's just do that again. Fear -3. That's all we needed. All right. So we got our new objective. Gain their trust by telling them about yourself. Together, I want to believe you. I just hope we can truly get out of this place. I can't bear the thought of being trapped here any longer. Let's hurry before anything changes. All right, cool. So now we're in the next step of the conversation, and we are suggested responses that gain their trust by telling them about yourself. We have the new trust meter. We still need to add like the UI of saying when you get 8 trust now is when you progress through. But the suggested responses are now like doing what they're supposed to instead of just being random responses. And the NPC's responses are in response to the conversation so far, and also what the player's goal is as well. So things are definitely improving. It's going. Used to drive 45 to 55 minutes at 2 a.m. to get tacos in WV, not Wyoming, West Virginia. I see. Placed to some American military bases and Germans can't get in. Oof. You can always join the American military, I assume, if you want Taco Bell that bad. Taco Bells in the Netherlands are open till 10 p.m. You know, I think of all the places in Europe, I would have expected Taco Bell in the Netherlands to be open like 24/7. But I will say, when we were over in Europe, I was so disappointed that everything closed so early in the evening. I'm not super surprised that Taco Bell's not open forever, but I cry every time. Sorry. I guess you'll have to get your tacos tomorrow. Alrighty, so let's see if we can build some trust here. I'm a traveler. I'm an illustrator. I'm a nurse. I'm a college student. Let's say I'm an illustrator. So now, all right, we need to fix the JSON. That would say less fear and more trust. So that makes sense. Let's go ahead and I'm surprised that it's giving the JSON tags. I guess we can we never even prompt it to not generate that. We probably do want to strip the JSON. Well, Hollowed Luck. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Let me also grab your profile and give you a little shout out as well. I can't remember what you were playing when I watched you stream, but I want to say you were doing game development when I was watching you, right? Looking at your profile now, and you've been playing a lot of games. Or were you playing... You were playing Chrono Trigger, and I followed you incessantly for days. That's what it was. Good times, good times. Yeah, Hollowed Luck, for anybody watching, is a cool little game streamer. He's been playing games I haven't really heard of, but I think he has been playing some good RPGs. Let's see. Oh, Last Epoch. I haven't actually played that game, but I do want to check it out sometime. Let me give you a little shout out. Thanks again. I appreciate that. Legend of Legaia. Skies of Arcadia is next. Gotcha. Okay. First time it's been free and I remembered. Nice. Well, good to have you here, and thank you. I guess, I mean, this is a big bug. We can let's fix that real fast. But things are looking up. I'm probably... I don't know if I want to do this UI today of like what the current goal is. But let's at least go to the prompt. What is generate response to chat history? This guy. So we need to also say do not wrap your response in JSON tags or any other formatting. Just output raw JSON. That should be enough for GPT-4o, but we can always do the stripping manually if it occurs. It's an underrated masterpiece. I'm just mad at it. I'm excited to get to Legaia 2 Duel Saga after Skies of Arcadia. One of his all-time favorites. Okay. Well, you better go follow Hollowed Luck. Let me go see what this... It sounds familiar, but I don't know if it's just because I know that you've mentioned it on stream. Yeah, you've mentioned it on stream and I looked it up. I never played this game. But it does look like there was a period when I was a kid and I had... It kind of looks like PlayStation 1. Yeah, PlayStation. And I would go to like Blockbuster every week and get a new game. And it was so fun to just like try every single game ever. So I may have played it for like a week at most, but I don't remember it. But looks like the kind of game that I would have liked a lot. Now let's say strip any JSON from the start and end of the generated text. If it starts with JSON, we will 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and trim off any white space from the start. If it ends with that, we also want to strip it off the end from 0 to length -3, and then get any white space gone. So that way we are telling it in the prompt, hey, don't do that. But if we say like change a model and it doesn't adhere to those instructions as much later and it does generate those JSON tags, we will strip them out anyway, and then we'll be back to valid JSON. Cool. Let's see here. I am going to take a quick bathroom break. I request everyone hydrate a little bit. Chat amongst yourselves. I will be right back in just a minute. Thanks for being here. Nope, wrong scene. Be right back. Wow. Susie's video for you to rent games. Too far in the sticks to have a Blockbuster. I used Blockbuster very generally. We actually had a Crown Video, which I think was a big deal in my small town in Missouri. Has since long gone out of business, but they had a whole shelf of games, and I tried them all at one point or another. Skies of Arcadia is an absolute legend of an RPG. It's got a mix of everything in it and does it all at least good, and some of it amazing. Started on Dreamcast and got to GameCube because Dreamcast didn't hit as good as it should have. You know, I've been meaning to play more of these like old-timey RPGs, especially ones that I can emulate on like my phone. And I'm doing a little bit of traveling soon, so maybe I'll download some and give them a shot on the flights or something. But yes, let's see what we've got left to do today, because I think maybe we can sneak in something here. There's obviously a lot of like fancy UI that we could do, but I'm trying to get stuff just working so we can style things later. But we want to show... sorry, I tended to derail you when I come in. No, you're good. I think half the fun of streaming is just sitting and chatting with y'all. We had Freshka in here earlier, and I literally just turned off the code and chatted with him in a while for a while. So all good. Good to have you here. I mean, I would just be sitting and coding heads down without chat, without stream anyway, so it's fun to see all y'all and say hi. And it's good to get some recs on old-timey games to play that I never played. It's always an interesting spot to be where people love these old games, and it's fun to play them from a perspective of like coming back to them, because a lot of people will replay them for the nostalgia, but it's also fun sometimes to be able to experience them for the first time, and it's interesting to see which games really hit hard for the first time even like decades later versus which ones kind of need that nostalgia to stand up. Okay, I want to know if there's a way we can use a slider component to like signal a point on the slider that we want to get to. Because we have a value and say it's here, but we want the player to know like when it's here, it will be good. You'll pass, you'll go to the next stage. The obvious thing to do is to like set up a little triangle indicator or something. Do we have a triangle maybe? Got a knob we can use. And like position it somewhere to show like, hey, here is the point you want to get to. But that's going to be really hard to position. I mean, I guess it's not as bad since we know the min and max values of the slider. We can compute like a percent from the left of where to position it. And we could even put it on the slider if we put it down here. We make it like green to show this is where you want it to be. But this doesn't really generalize to like our trigger event system that we built that has like any value greater than or equal to. Like, how do you make those visually distinct or exactly equal to, etc. I mean, we can do like this kind of, but yeah, we definitely just need better UI in general, but we're just trying to get something that shows the player like, here's what you need to do to get to the next step. You need to increase trust to this point. You need to decrease fear to this point, etc. So showing something is better than nothing at all, even if it looks bad. Gotta get back to Chrono Cross True. Hell yeah. I got derailed off it, so I'm gonna have to do a fresh start on it later. I mean, that's a good problem to have because you can try out new characters and everything. Also looking forward to the Chrono Trigger remake. That Oops Slip-On announcement is promising that it could be real. I've been looking forward to the Chrono Trigger remake for like 10 years, and I am still not convinced that it'll ever be real. So wishful thinking, but I'll believe it when I see it. Because they, like, one of the developer guy, or whoever it was, I didn't even see who it was. It's probably like Kato or something. He apparently said something that got mistranslated into saying that there would be a remake. And then they ran like an update saying that it was just a mistranslation, but then somebody else put out a headline saying like, yeah, he said something else though that implies there will be a remake. And then he came out and said like, yeah, I didn't say anything about a remake, but I do see that everyone's interested in it, so maybe. So it's just back and forth. I would have expected it for like I think their 10-year anniversary or 20-year anniversary or something just happened, so that would have been a great time to release it, but we shall see. Alright, is this what we want to do? Just have like a goal like this? It's so jank, but could work. And then we say like when we're setting up the slider, if there are any event triggers, we can just take the value of the first one. I mean, we haven't even thought about what happens when there's multiple of these guys. And especially if they're like good or bad, like you fail if it gets below here, you win if it's above this. It's kind of hard to generalize the like good or bad to code when we're setting up callbacks that aren't necessarily tagged as like positive or negative. But for now we can just have one. And then on our score display, when we're setting it up, set up slider values, we can say public game object goal indicator. And then we can, oh right, we don't even pass in the, you know what, let's do this. Let's say, let's separate it out. Set goal indicator, or let's say create goal indicator. And we will say value for our threshold to be at and also a color. So we don't need that because we'll just set it on the prefab. We'll enable it. We'll set our position. That's not going to be right. We'll set the color and then normalize the value to the sliders range and position on top of it. Can you do that, Copilot? Maybe? I don't want to do the math. Float xpos is inverse lerp. Yeah, that ain't it. You know, actually you might be. Slider min value, slider max value, and our value, okay. Times our rect times our dot width, that makes sense. Don't need to reset the scale. If we anchor it, I think that'll work. Maybe anchor it over here. I think that'll actually work. And also this is a great time to update these increasing and decreasing value text, because they're red and green right now, which implies good and bad, but it implies that for specific directions. So, for example, when we have trust, going up is good and you get the green increasing number. Trust going down is bad, you get the red decreasing number. But it doesn't work with the initial thing of like fear. When fear goes up, the number is green because it's going up, but you don't want fear to go up. So We could just have colors that don't have that inherent meaning attached to them, like blue and red or blue and orange or something. Or we could have some sort of flag for like flip those. So it'd be green up by default, red down, but we could have like a flag that we hit that flips them. So if it goes up, it's red. If it goes down, it's green. The problem with that is when we're setting up like the actual scores, we do it manually with fear at the start, and we could set that manually as well. But we can add them in dynamically later, which doesn't have any context of like what is good or bad, which might have some issues. But for now, maybe we just add it anyway and then use it and worry about the dynamic stuff later. So on this guy, let's also have a public void flip color directionality. And we just swap those colors. Put one in a temp, swap it, classic. And then update the label color. Do we need to do that? I don't think we do. Because we're going to do this when we first set up the slider. And then the lerping of the actual changes uses these colors. So where we set up the fear, we can just call this and it'll flip those. And then this will also call at the same point, and I guess just hard code in our threshold that we're trying to hit. So both of those, let's store them over here real fast. Go find where we're setting up this conversation. So here's one, not the first conversation goal, but after we've calmed them down. So after their fear is below whatever we set in the editor, then we are building this trust and we are adding the conversation score. Set up conversation score as we go through here. And we create a conversation score display controller here. And I guess we can just say like, yeah, that basically. Create our goal indicator for whatever our threshold is. That's not gonna work because we don't have access to the thresholds here. But we store this on the score sliders with the score as a key. So where we call this is here. We can set up our initial fear score goal, which is going to be score sliders at the score slider where the key is fear. We set up slider values. No, we add, what did we call it? Create goal indicator. And we want that, but where do we grab the value that we are shooting for? Because it's stored in the UI. Let's go look where we store it. I guess after we set this reference first so we don't forget. Goal indicator is here. Cool. Let's go out of here. go look at our event controller. No, our conversation HUD. So in the Chroma conversation controller, which is where we're at, cool, we want to grab for each score, or at least we want to find the fear score and then go through its events and find just the first event with a threshold, I guess. Pull that threshold value out and then call create goal indicator with that threshold value. So we will say, what is this? Yeah, sure. Score sliders at fear score dot threshold. What do they call them? Dot events. What is this? To a conversation score display controller. Threshold triggers. Okay, we're getting there. Don't find any of them really. We just want like the first one. So I guess we can even jankily do something like that. S dot, I guess S is equal to fear score. Sure. Dot threshold triggers at 0. That's going to give us this first element dot threshold. So that's our value that we want. So we want float fear threshold is that. So then on our score sliders, we find the one associated with the fear score, create goal indicator of that value, and color green because that's what we want. So that should work, hopefully. That'll add a little green indicator on the UI. Alrighty, time for me to catch some Z's. I hope you dream about tacos all night, Human. And I hope you get some tacos tomorrow. Thanks for being here. Get some good sleep. And then we also, I think this is where we would also flip the color directionality on the score slider as well. So we can just do this as well. Thanks. Have a good night, day, Streets of and fellow human beings. Good to have you here, human. Thank you. Let's do this. Flip color directionality. We can kind of, what is this? This is a map to the conversation score display controller. Let's grab that. Conversation score display controller. We'll call this fear score display. Is that right? I guess score sliders at this value. So now we can use this and call create goal indicator on it, and also flip the color directionality where up is red, up is red, down is green. Right? Yeah, because more fear is bad. Okay, so we hopefully have implemented both of those things at the same time. We still would need to implement them for like the next score when we like have the callback events for when you do successfully calm down the voice. We're adding in trust and stuff. But let's go ahead and just test this here. We'll make sure the system works. And we can always add that in afterwards if this works. Shouldn't be a problem. We'll see if it works. Who knows? All right. We do... It feels like that would be a value of 5, but I guess that's probably the right value. And then... So that should work, actually. And now when we decrease fear, we should see the number being green instead of red. I promise I'm not a threat. Okay, we're getting closer. Okay, easy peas. Stuck 2. If we work together, we can find a way out. Great. Okay, yeah, we show that by default, which we don't want to do. So let's create goal indicator. We set that active to true. So we'll set it active false in the prefab. And then we'll also set one up for trust real fast. And then it should look pretty good. We'll want to... Yeah, because I think this gets redrawn every time it's updated, which is why it's showing up here, which is the default, because we no longer have a threshold. I think? I mean, I feel like we do, because this will error if we don't. But maybe... No, it definitely will error if we don't have one. So I'm not sure why it's set to 0 now. But we can at least go update that prefab, score display, turn this off by default, and then where we say on player do whatever. On players gained other prisoners' trust. Player has calmed down other prisoner. Here we can also set the same sort of thing we just did. So let's just copy it over in case we need some of it. And we'll say add a visual goal for the trust score goal. Cool. So we need to grab the conversation score, which is here. Cool. Which is fear score, which is actually trust. So all these gets updated. And then we need to grab the conversation score display controller, which is over yonder. Score sliders, is this... It is public. All right, we can just grab that. So, is this a singleton? No, it's not. Okay. Maybe a better way is just to pass in a desired goal when we're building this in the first place, instead of creating it and then gaining a reference back to it and adding it in manually. Just depends on what kind of architecture we want. But add conversation score here. I mean, we have our conversation controller. We already have a reference to that. So we can just say conversation controller dot score sliders. Which is a mapping of conversation score to the thing that we want. This was just added to it, so we can use that as the key. And then we have this display. We don't want to flip the color directionality on that, but we do want a threshold of gained trust event dot threshold. Easy peas. I've never written easier code in my life. I think that will work. So let's test it. Hopefully it works. Oh, I've been streaming for a long time. Okay. Cool. Let's make sure this works. Alright, I'm just as scared as you are. We bring down the fear. Cool, cool, cool. Now we want to bring up the trust. And we probably want like little floating indicators and animations saying like, oh yeah, it was -3 fear, floating up, blah, 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 and animate. I feel like that lerping didn't actually work. Maybe we updated it instantly, but oh good. You can trust me, I've been locked in here for days and I just want to go home, sure. Trust goes up, fear goes down. Let's see if we can get the trust up to our goal and see what the next state is. Okay, found some stuff. Trust is up. I feel like something should have happened, but maybe we just haven't set up the on player has gained other prisoners trust event yet. Oh, we did. Okay. Yeah. It worked. So they responded with a bunch of messages, which is their script of like, hey, I need to chill. Like, I trust you. You should go look around the room and report back what you find. And so this is the point of the game where we probably don't want to respond to player messages. We probably want to do that before we... It's fine that we have these suggested responses. I think they won't respond now. Yeah. So they've gone. They said they're going to take a moment to themselves. They're no longer responding. The player's going to close the conversation, look around the room some more, and that's when we'll make this camera more prominent, and the camera is what will trigger the next conversation where you're actually talking to like the person who has kept you captive. And based on your conversation history here, that's what's going to generate the plot of why you were held captive. So you said like, I've been locked in here for days. They must have the wrong person. Hopefully we'll have encouraged the player to talk more about themselves by then when we tweak the thresholds and stuff. But there should be more stuff about the player that they've said here. And then we'll use that to generate plot when they're talking to the actual captor of like, here's why I captured you, and then you'll need to convince them to let you out. So should be a fun experiment in generating plot based on whatever the player says. So some role-playing stuff there, some like fun character arcs and generating challenges and dilemmas and stuff. But we can mask all that by just having the player like look around the room and do stuff in the meantime until all of that is generated, the script is ready, and then we could like turn on a red light on the camera or something. We could turn off all the lights in the room except for the one above the camera. We'll bring the player that way. There's a lot of stuff to do, but we got the system in place for showing the player what they need to accomplish in the conversation, and also actually rigged it all up to actually work, which is exciting. Fixed some stuff, updated the models so the content is way better, gave the other person a much more realistic personality of somebody who's also trapped in this room. We can do a lot more stuff with what you've said to them originally. Like if we do get let out, you could go choose to let them out or not as well. Plenty of other stuff to do, but I think that's probably good for today because we have been streaming for a while and we just got everything working. So good stopping point, and we can handle the big boss conversation next time. And it should be a fun little demo. I think it'll all come together really well when we're using one conversation to generate like conflict and plot for another conversation, which is cool tech demo, I think. But cool. Let me see if anybody I know is streaming. No developers, but I do see a friend who's playing Baldur's Gate with his wife, perchance. Or he was actually playing D&D at this point. Well, you know what? We'll look around and see if we can get somebody in Unity and raid them real fast. Always fun to pass along some viewers. Let's see who we've got. Late night stream, no talking. Wow, there's only 4 Unity streams right now. And not a single one of them has a camera other than me. Huh, okay. Let's see. You know what? Yeah, that guy's been streaming 7 hours. Maybe not him. Making a tiny game. 3 hours. Okay. We'll just poke around real fast. If I don't see anybody, we can call it. But it's nice to have y'all here. And let's see what we got. I guess I can show over here. We're poking around. I wish there was a filter for like streaming less than X amount of hours. This guy says, be right back, 5 hours streaming. 1 hour in? Is that Unreal? Yeah, okay. You know what, my friends? I think we will, we'll just call it there. It's been fun hanging out with y'all. Unless I see somebody in the next minute or so. What's this guy working on? NPC ship control. You know? Why not? We'll give him a try. Let's head on over to Pharaoh Wizard TV. Pharaoh Wizard TV. It's been fun. Thanks for being here. Still going. Yeah, we are popping out right now. So I will see you guys next week. Let me find my actual where's my window to actually trigger the raid? Of course, thanks for having me. Yeah, of course. We're gonna head on over. See you guys. Have a good day.